Hey yogis, it's Suzanne. Thanks for joining me today. Today I have a yin practice prepared for you. This is one that I've done a number of times while I've been running and training for a half marathon. It's great for runners, but athletes as well. A lot of focus on the legs and then a few other things thrown in there. For this practice, you will need some props. We'll use a strap, a blanket, and a block. If you don't have these traditional props at home, that's okay. If you don't have a strap, a scarf or a belt, something like that would work. For the blanket, some nice, heavier bath towels or beach towels would work great. For the block today, you don't even really need it. You could use a folded blanket, a large book, something like that if you wanted to. That would be a lovely substitute. So we'll go ahead and get started. Just start with a comfortable seat wherever you are. Get nice and tall and take a moment, just let the shoulders drop down the back. And maybe find a nice clearing breath, a deep inhale. And an exhale, let it go. And then just start to settle into the breath, finding an even cadence. As you start to come into the breath, invite that even cadence and welcome it and let it settle. And as the breath settles, invite it to settle the body, settle the mind, settle the heart just a little bit. Continue the breath and bring attention to your heart. I welcome you to find intention, anything that will bring focus to this practice, that will contribute to your grounding, to settling. In any yoga practice, the mind tends to wander, to stray, and that intention helps to keep us here. And let the hands rest beside the body, and on an inhale, start to reach the arms towards overhead. So you exhale, bring hands to the heart, sealing in that intention. Find a drop of the chin, a little blink of the eyes open. And we will set up for our first posture. We'll start in a reclined position. So you can push anything else out of the way. Come onto your backs, have that strap close by, the block too if you're using a block. And come back to a reclined posture. You might take a moment just to settle in, a little windshield wiper of the knees, a little rocking through the hips, whatever feels good. And then with the feet to the floor, the knees up, hands to the body or off to the side. Just take a couple of breaths as we change position. And then on your next inhale, draw that left knee to the chest. Start to find a little movement through the ankle, maybe movement through the hip. And locate that strap or whatever it is you're using today. The strap will go around the ball of the foot as we send that leg towards the ceiling, finding gentle tension through the back of the left leg. The leg doesn't have to be straight. You could have a soft bend if that does the job. But once you settle the leg, find a gentle hold of the strap. You might like to sort of lace it around the fingers like reins. Let the elbows sort of dangle and drop so you get this gentle downward pull and start to settle in. This would be a lovely place to stay, but if it felt good, you could extend the right leg. I'm going to keep that right foot planted, just that extra grounding feels good to me, feels like the right thing to do today. Now that you're settled, it's just time to marinate in the pose, marinate in the breath. Take just a few more breaths here, trying to keep the breath as calm and as even as you can. And then when you're ready, release the strap. The left ankle will cross over the right thigh. So if you extended that right leg, go ahead and bend it. This would be a great place to stay, just letting that left knee be a little heavy towards the floor, or draw that right knee into the chest. I like to take my right hand to that right thigh with a little pull in, brace my left elbow to the floor, and then find just like a little prop for that left thigh. Find this gentle little push-pull, this gentle little tension here. And then again, settling into the breath. If you're close to a wall, another alternative would be to scooch up closer to the wall where the right foot could be on the wall. Sometimes that's a nice way to settle in. With the right foot on the wall, you might be able to release one or both hands and just surrender a little bit more to this shape. Just a few more breaths here. When you're ready, bring right foot back down to the mat. Take an inhale, and as you exhale, let the legs fall to the right. Feel free to use a blanket or a block, anything to support this leg if you want. Right hand can come to that left thigh, just sort of gently weighing it towards the floor. And then if it feels good, you can turn the head. If that causes any strain or pinching on the neck, then just let the gaze stay up straight or off to the right. But if it feels good, start to turn the head just to add to the twist. You might notice that in the twist, the breast gets a little constricted, so this is a great time to just come back to that even cadence, like soften the edges of the inhales and the exhales. Just a few more breaths here to settle into the twist. And when you're ready, gently start to unwind. We'll be coming into shoelace pose or reclined shoelace. So that left thigh stacks over the right. Opposite hands go either to the knees, the shins, the ankles. And then there's a little heaviness of the hips and the knees towards the body, towards the floor. If this is not pleasing to your knees, and for some people it just doesn't feel quite right, you are more than welcome to come back to that little number 4 shape, or maybe to a half happy baby would be a nice alternative. Regardless of which one you pick, find that heaviness, that grounding. The challenge with yin poses is oftentimes on the onset they seem fine and maybe even somewhat benign, but the longer you're there, the longer you simmer and marinate, sometimes it can become untenable. So if your body is giving you signs that it's not a conducive shape, not a happy shape, listen to your body and change the shape. There's other poses that will help us out. Just a few more breaths here. And then begin to unwind the legs, bringing those feet back to the mat. You might like to take a few windshield wipers just to kind of wash out that series, or extend the legs long. Just listen to whatever your body is motivated to do. Just give it a little bit of freedom there. And then bring the feet to the mat, the knees up. If you're using the block or other support, find that. Take a lift through the hips, and with the block under the hips, just find a nice solid placement where you can really settle in. The hands can remain on the body, or they can relax off to the side. And just take a few breaths settling here before we tackle the second side. Just a few more breaths here. And when you're ready, gently press into the feet, lift through the hips, and then bring those hips back down to the mat. Again, a little windshield wiper, or maybe extending and stretching those legs out. And we'll find that series on the second side. So on an inhale, hug the right knee to the chest, maybe find that little movement through the hip, through the ankle. And then the strap comes around the ball of the right foot. As you send that foot towards the ceiling, just looking for gentle tension in the back of the right leg. Once you get that leg to about the right spot, add that gentle, just a downward heaviness almost. Let the elbows hug into the body. And remember that bottom leg, that left leg, it could go long, or you can keep it bent. If you take it long and you feel pulling on the low back, or it takes the focus off of the right leg, then that's a good sign to maybe bring that left foot back to the floor, back to the earth. Okay, just a few more breaths here. And when you're ready, release that right leg and cross the ankle over the left thigh. Remember, you can stay here. This might be just a great place for you to work today, or draw that left thigh in. I'm going to find just a gentle push away with the right hand. Once I leverage that elbow into the floor, and a gentle pull in with the left. Hips staying heavyish. Coming back to breath, coming back to intention. Giving focus to the work. Just another breath or two. And then let the left foot come to the mat. And let the legs fall to the left. The left hand might come to that right thigh. Just a gentle weight, just a coax, not a force. Just allowing, kind of guiding with gravity. And just like on the other side, if it feels good to turn the head, then a little turn of the head, maybe a sleepy gaze. Softening the edges of the breath as that twist starts to constrict it. Just a few more breaths in this twist. And then gently start to unwind, coming into that shoelace posture. So that right thigh on top of left, opposite hands to opposite knees, shins, or ankles. And again, this is where an alternate posture might suit you better. A happy baby, or coming back to that little number 4 shape. In this pose, we're looking for just a little bit of heaviness of the hips, the knees, making sure the rest of the body is staying, soft. The work is happening for me in the hips. You might feel it in a slightly different place. And just a few more breaths settled in this posture. Nice, even, soft cadence. And then start to unwind those legs. A little windshield wiper, a little stretching of the legs long, whatever you feel motivated to kind of wash out that series, to wash out that side. And then again, finding your support for your hips, the block, maybe the folded blanket, feet to the floor, knees up, let the shoulders settle beneath you, and then lift the hips, taking the block to the sacrum. Now this time it might feel good to spread this out just a little bit more, maybe inching the feet more towards the end of the mat. I would encourage you today though to keep the soles of the feet flush to the mat versus going all the way along. Just that little extra settling and grounding. Maybe it feels good to reach the arms towards overhead or take them in a cactus, but do choose a position where they feel settled. In this posture where the front of the body is exposed, the heart is gently open, it might be a good time to touch base to reconnect with that intention that you set. Taking another couple of breaths here. If you reach the arms away from the body, gently bring them back in a little closer. And then walking those feet back to the starting position if you walked them out. Once the feet are firmly on the mat, find a lift to the hips. Go ahead and remove that support and come back down. Maybe, again, add in that little windshield wiper or taking a stretch of the legs long. And then moving nice and slowly, take your time. We'll gently shift to the right side. You might use your arm or a prop to support the head. We'll take a nice slow transition after being reclined for so long. Just that nice smooth transition coming up as we shift shapes just a little bit. Once you feel settled on your side, start to press up, coming up to all fours, maybe a little cat-cow. Maybe you'd prefer coming into a down dog or finding just some fluid movement. Listen to what feels good to your body. And then taking it down as you exhale, we're coming down to a kneeling posture. Now, if your knees are a little sensitive, mine are feeling a little touchy today, you might double up your mat and add a little extra push. You might even add the block underneath the tail for a little extra support. For some of you, this just might not be a favorable posture. Feel free to fast forward if this is not a good place to be. Other options would maybe to be in like a child's pose with your booty high. That'll take some of the compression out of the knee. But if this is an okay place, it is a wonderful quad opener. It does open the knee a little bit. My quads are a little tight today, so this is going to get intense pretty quickly for me. If you can, let those hands just rest on the lap, just that little warmth, that little bit of grounding. As you breathe, maybe check in that the tension isn't bubbling up to the face, to the neck. Keeping the work in the legs, keeping the work in that heaviness of the hips. Taking just a few more breaths here if you can. Really settle in for those last couple of breaths. And then gently starting to come out of the posture, you might like to come to all four and repeat that cat-cow shape, or maybe pedal the legs or downward facing dog, whichever sounds good, whichever you prefer. From here, we'll transition to come prone to the front of our bodies. So you can come through plank if you'd like. You can lower down through the knees if you'd like. Coming into a Sphinx posture. So let the feet be maybe hip distance, maybe a little bit wider. Elbows come roughly underneath those armpits so that the structure of your body is what is keeping you up. You might have just a little push down through the forearms. Hands can be palms down, or it might feel better to have those palms together. So you get this gentle opening of the heart, this gentle back bend. If it feels good, you can sink a little towards the ground. Maybe even resting the forehead on the block or stacked hands or another support. If that feels like it pulls the back of the neck or just doesn't feel quite right, then just find that little lift through the back of the head. So this would be a lovely place to keep working. If you wanted to intensify that back bend just a little bit more, take the hands wide. I like to hold on to the front corners of the mat and find a lift of the elbows. The shoulders stay on the back as you increase the lift of the heart, the openness of the heart. If this does not work with you in either the pressure through that pubic bone or if it feels pinchy in the back at all, then go ahead and come back down. It just might not be the right pose for you today. Stay a couple more breaths. When you're ready to come down, if those elbows are up, you'll bring them back down to the mat. And then maybe stack the hands, let the elbows go wide. Take a moment resting the head on the hands and just be prone to the floor. Feel that grounding of the front of the body to the earth. Feel free to stay here for a few more breaths. And then we'll work to transition to a seated posture. So you might press back through a child's pose. You might even like to stay there for another couple of breaths. And then we'll eventually come on to our seat. And this is where you'll want the blanket roll. You could always use, again, some towels would work really well. You could also, if you had a really small foam roller, you could drape a little towel or a little blanket over that just to add a little push. We're going to come into a gentle heart opener just to give the upper body a little bit of love. The blanket roll is going to come all the way to your tail. We don't want a lot of gap at the low back. And I would encourage you to start feet to the floor, knees up. Gently lower yourself onto the blanket so that it follows the spine. Now, depending on your blanket, you might want additional support for the head. Just make sure the neck and the head feel happy. Your head might sort of trail off, and if that feels okay here, you're fine. If it feels like it's too much, add a little extra support. Once you get the spine situated, maybe let the arms drape off to the side of the body. And then you could stay here, this would be great. You could also play with the configuration of the legs, maybe walking the feet out a little longer, maybe all the way out, or even taking feet together, knees wide in like a butterfly shape. I would encourage you, no matter how flexible you are, to add some support under the knees, blankets, blocks, a little pillow, just so that your legs can really sink and let go here. I'm going to go for that little extra grounding today and maybe walk my feet out a little bit, but keep them flat. And then your job is just to breathe into the openness of the heart. And again, with that heart exposed, it might be a good opportunity to come back to your intention and, of course, settle into that breath. Enjoy just a few more even breaths in this openness. And if those knees are wide or if the legs are long, slowly start to bring the feet back to the floor, knees up. You might move the arms a little closer to the body. And then very gently just dismount off this blanket roll. Take a rock or a shift to one side. And just like when we got up before, take a moment just to pause. You might press the blanket away so the mat is clear behind you. And then when you're ready, gently come back to your back, feet to the floor, knees up, or start to extend those legs long. And from here, we'll begin to set up for our final resting posture, our final Shavasana posture. Feel free to support the body in any way you see fit. Maybe use the blanket under the knees or a thin blanket under the head. You could also cover the eyes or dim the lights. So I invite you to set up for Shavasana in whatever shape you're comfortable. And if you have the time, just set a timer for 5 or 10 minutes So you can just take the last few minutes of practice to let all of the work that we did just settle in. So go ahead, set that timer, maybe have some gentle music playing in the background, and I will leave you here to finish out the practice. Thank you so much for joining me today. It is my privilege to be here with you, to meet virtually on the mat. Have a lovely, lovely rest of your day. Namaste.